Hey there, this is the City Surrey Showcase, where we highlight artists that have contributed to our little Surrey music economy here. Today I am joined by a recurring guest for a really special edition. It is the man with the recurringly great mustache and the brand new bass guitar. It's Colin Sankey. Hey Colin, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm great. Tell me about this beautiful new thing that you're holding. It showed up on your doorstep one day, right?
Yeah, they just MTD sent me a bass, and I was like, "What is this?" I opened up the case, and I was like, "What is this? Like a couch? Is it like a dead body or something?" And I opened up the case, and it was a handmade bass. And then I remembered, of course, that I won a solo bass contest, the Phil Jones solo bass contest in New York back in 2022. Yeah. And I had an endorsement that came out of that whole competition with Michael Tobias Design, who designs beautifully handcrafted basses, and they had delivered this handmade electric bass to my doorstep, specific to my specifications of how I actually wanted the bass made.
Wow.
So it's got a ebony fingerboard, maple neck. It's got a alder body, maple top, and then this finish is a dark cherry sunburst finish. So obviously very aesthetic, but it also sounds great as well.
Yeah, nice. Well, give us a sample of what it sounds like. I'm sure we don't want to tease people too long with you holding that thing.
All right. Let me show you. As you can hear, every note crystal clear.
Yeah, that rings out so nice.
Yeah.
I love that. That's gorgeous. And for those who remember from last year, that's Colin's Super Mario arrangement, which is spectacular. Check it out. So when we bring back pros like you, like you've been doing the thing. You've got those TikTok views, those Instagram Reels views. You're getting all over the place. So I think it's time for you to give back to our bass playing community a little bit. And we're going to do a special edition of Music City Surrey Showcase. We're going to get you to run us through a little bit of a lesson, some basics, because I'm sure you've got a huge audience online of people that are interested in learning how to play the bass, or people that already play the bass and are just in awe of what you do. So can you give me some examples of classic bass techniques and where you would use them? And like songs maybe that people would be familiar with that would use them.
For sure. So the most quintessential, or the kind of your bread and butter of bass playing, is using your fingers, obviously.
Yeah.
Just like so.
Yeah.
So having your finger go through the string such that it lands on the string below to mute it, and having your thumb follow along for the ride to anchor and mute other strings that you're not playing. And that's the technique that's most often used in, probably 90% of bass records. A lot of the times people use a pick, but as they say, and out in the real bass world, using a pick is illegal. And if you do get caught using one, the FBI will be coming to your doorstep, and they'll be taking you away and putting you in solitary confinement for quite some time. So
I better look over my shoulder then, because I've definitely done some covers of songs with a...
You better erase those videos.
I better, yeah.
Take those offline right now.
If it was in the original record, I'm going to duplicate it the way they did it in the record. What can I tell you?
As Davey 504 would say, I don't approve.
Right.
I'm just kidding, though. Using a pick is actually a perfectly viable technique. I just haven't used one in quite some time, because I don't think the style that I use particularly calls for it.
So the sidebar was entirely for comedy. Understood. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like on that kind of road, I guess there's a lot of videos online too where the stereotype is the guy sitting in the back in the cover band who's just holding down that quarter note groove when all he wants to be doing, like instead of playing these 4 chord loops of top 40s pop songs, is just slippity slap slap slap, and or like tapping or doing all these crazy techniques that you bring into your solo bass world.
Right.
I feel like pop music's getting more interesting than that. I feel like 2020s is the decade of the bass-led songs. Like if you listen to like Dua Lipa record, Sabrina Carpenter, stuff like that. Tell me like about some of the more like fun bass lines that you've gotten to play in cover gigs, like when you're not just doing your solo bass thing.
Yeah, for sure. There's totally a ton of interesting bass playing out there, even in the top 40 stuff, if you look for it. Especially in the more funky bass, funky type of bands like Dua Lipa, you mentioned. Bruno Mars, his bass player, Jamario Artis, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's an exceptional bass player. He's very virtuosic, and he even uses the slap technique in some of his lines. For example, in the Uptown Funk bass line, you got this wicked slap bass line or wicked slap bass fill in the chorus that goes something like right, and it's just got some bouncing back and forth, bouncing between the thumb and the plucking finger, right? So lots of quintessential bass techniques. Obviously, Red Hot Chili Peppers, well known for some of that slap bass, right? How's that one? Dark Necessities.
Yeah. I think that was one of the first songs I ever tried to learn on slap back when it came out. Yeah.
It's quintessential slap line for sure.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. So taking that into like popular territory, people want to learn all of these fun, funky, they don't just want to sit in the background, like you're picking up a bass, not just because your friend already called dibs on guitar in the band, but because you actually want to learn it. What are some practice regimens that you go through to really bring like the technique up to snuff? Like when you were first starting out, what were like some of your go-to ways to practice your technique to get it just up there in quality?
Yeah, so for when I was growing up, a lot of the time I didn't spend a lot of time. I still don't spend a lot of time on actual drills, like anything like that. Often what I would do is just play along to songs, like take a song I really liked and just learn it note for note. And that kind of helped me to learn quite a variety of material, from fingerstyle to slapping. There's like the good old school Sly and the Family Stone. That's a good like kind of starter slap line. I might have learned, there's Another One Bites the Dust.
Yeah.
And just getting used to that gets you used to the kind of like the setting down a solid, steady quarter note pulse, but also learning to have a little more finesse in your fingers to do some of the 16th notes.
Really getting that control to mute those strings quickly too.
Exactly. Yeah. And also a big song was actually Stomp by the Brothers Johnson. Had some, Louis Johnson had some great finger work during the chorus.
Yeah.
Right, and so there's just a lot of just playing along to songs constantly, trying to mimic the recording as best I could, and try to just learn all the fills, learn all the bass lines note for note. Imitation is kind of one of the best ways to ingrain both the language and the techniques and all the styles that you kind of want to learn to progress your playing further. You kind of start with the easy songs, you work your way up to the harder songs. After a while I started practicing some like Marcus Miller. And then some, Victor Wooten. And all that type of stuff. And that kind of, as you keep progressing, you level up your technique more and more. So I leveled up my technique more through just playing harder and harder, more difficult songs, and trying to like really finesse them with the metronome in the practice room and really woodshedding them till I could get them perfect. I've never been a big fan of drills because they don't feel musical to me, so they feel like I'm not getting a lot of bang for my buck when I'm practicing. But when I have done drills, they've been more focused around doing like scales or improvisation, so that I can have more facility around the neck of the bass. a couple of technique warm-up drills, but most of the technique is it just learned through playing songs.
Yeah.
And just starting slow and going faster. Yeah.
Nice. And you were doing a technique there called double thumbing. Walk us through a bit how you would do that.
So a double thumping is basically like when you slap normally, but you're getting twice the bang for your buck when you're doing the double thumping, because you're also doing the upswing of your thumb, which is almost, as Victor Wooten says, almost identical to using a pick, right? You've got your down and your up. So the movement itself is twice as efficient. Imagine how much you can do with this as opposed to just this. Right? Twice as fast.
Brings us back to your pick argument.
Right. Exactly. Right. So, I mean, in a way, I do use a pick because I'm double thumping half the time. So, yeah, that being said, the double thumb is accomplished through slapping normally through the string such that you land on the next string. You want to slap through the string on the edge of the fretboard, typically is the best. That gives you the most leverage to go back up again. And you want to get, you want to hit the string at an angle such that you can flick the string on the upswing with your nail, such like that. And I always tell my students when they're doing the up thumb is imagine there's a drummer playing behind you and he just is really bad at his job. He's off time, his fills aren't landing on one, he's overplaying, he's playing too loud, he's not getting the shots right. And so you're just like fed up with this guy and you're like, you're fired, you're out, right? So that motion that you're making to basically tell the drummer you're out of the band, that's the same motion that you actually make when you're double thumping.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's funny, but it actually, every time I've told one of my students that that's actually the motion you want to emulate when you're thumping, they get it right away. It's like magic. Now, obviously,
you'll never forget that again. You're fired.
Yeah, exactly. You're out, right? And obviously, you're just you take that big movement and you just gradually make it a little smaller until it's more more economical, I guess I could say. And you're just going down and up like that. But the basic motion is the same, just more subdued.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for that, Colin. One last thing. We have asked you 2 years in a row now for a piece of advice, but it's kind of tradition here at Music City Surrey. If you're looking to give somebody who's starting out in music a piece of advice about how to get started, do you have anything new to say this year? Or not so much?
New to say. Well, it depends on if I remember what I said last year. It might be new to me, but it might also be accidentally regurgitating what I said last year. But I would say focus on finding joy in the music that you are learning and writing. Always just find new inspiration. I find when I'm kind of stuck in a rut, when I find new inspiration from somewhere, that's when the ideas start flowing more. Some of my best songs kind of flow from, just having new inspiration that just really, excites me, right? So just find inspiration anywhere musically and you'll be more motivated to just keep going. Awesome.
Well, we're so excited to hear another one of your arrangements again next coming up here. Remind us where we can find you online.
So you can find me online at Colin SANKEY Bass. So that's COLINSANKEY bass. The instrument, not like the foundation, the bass, even though it is technically the foundation as well. Colin SANKEY Bass, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Those are the 3 platforms I'm on. Mainly, I'm also on Facebook, but for some reason, Facebook doesn't like me very much. That's where I'm at. You can also find me on my website, and I'm about to release a new album entitled Call and Response. I hope you get the pun in the title, Call and Response. I finished recording most of the songs just a few weeks ago, and we're looking to release that in the new year. So stay tuned for that.
So it's going to be coming out soon by the time this video is hopefully out.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, sounds good, Colin. Can't wait to hear this new arrangement of Seven Nation Army. Thanks to everyone at home, Music City Surrey Showcase. Thanks to the City of Surrey for hosting us in their beautiful city, as well as sponsoring these videos. And we'll see you next time.